Welcome everyone to Wrasslin Raw!
Listening to Wrasslin Raw, the podcast that takes you back to when the World Wrestling Federation developed a little bit of an attitude. Thank you for joining us. You're here with Ryan Arico.
Is that Barbara Streisand in the crowd?
Such a terrible comment, too, because it was like a bright red wig. Didn't look anything like it. Joe Giammatteo.
Madison Square Garden. It's not a church, but it's holy ground.
Touching. It gets me in the feels. I'm the one and only Jason Bartlett, and we're going to examine WWE history one episode of Raw at a time. But first, I need to address this at the top. Last week on our episode...
I'm getting a little thirsty.
Yeah, I said... Towards the end of things, for those of you that are faithful listeners, you'll know that last week was the Pillman's Got a Gun episode. And at the end of that, during our discussion of the whole angle, I laid one round of beers on the fact that the WWE was going to milk it hard before pretending it didn't happen. I was quite adamant in that prediction, and I was fucking wrong. As of right this second, we are pretending like that shit didn't happen.
I have to tell you that you are not completely wrong. They did address a lot of it over the weekend, just not on Monday Night Raw. In fact, Jim Ross said on Superstars that the footage from last Monday night will never appear on WWF television again.
Wow. Paving the way to pretend like it never happened.
Well, that started tonight.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get that out there right off the bat before I caught shit for it, because I knew I would eventually. Mea culpa, boys. I owe you a beer.
At least you fessed up to it.
Yeah, I mean, how dare you, really? You know, we pretend that it didn't happen all the time.
As a matter of fact, I don't even know what you're talking about.
Some incident from last week.
Well, we're here to talk about this week. In this episode of Wrasslin Raw, we're going to be talking about the Raw that aired on November 11th, 1996. This Raw was recorded at the War Memorial Coliseum in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and features Vince McMahon, Jerry the King Lawler, and oh so briefly, Jim Ross on commentary. Are you guys ready?
I'm ready.
Ready.
All right, then. Let's get into it. We are not fucking around tonight. Welcome, everyone, to Monday Night Raw and our first match of the night. Owen Hart and the British Bulldog with Clarence Mason defeat Shawn Michaels and Psycho Sid with Jose Lothario by pinfall in 11 minutes and 10 seconds to retain the WWF Tag Team Championships. 3 weeks ago, there was friendship drama between Shawn and Sid. 2 weeks ago, there was friendship drama between Shawn and Sid. 1 week ago, there was friendship drama between Shawn and Sid. We got a video package here shown during the champ's entrance, highlighting so much friendship here. And we came back for Sid's entrance. Sid had just climbed out of a vat of baby oil. He was positively drenched in the shit. And then Shawn Michaels coming down in what was a slightly lackluster entrance for him. It wasn't drawn out. It wasn't over the top. There wasn't excessive stripping. It was actually just a normal entrance for anyone other than Shawn Michaels. But we can't forget that this is a tag team match, so before the match even started, we were switching over to split screen to get some words from Stone Cold Steve Austin. Once Steve Austin is done with Bob Holly later on tonight, he's going to track down Bret Hart and put the sharpshooter on him. Back in our match, Owen and Sid started things off, and what better person to be in with Sid? Sid just needed to be there with an opponent that sells. And speaking of selling, Owen Hart wailing in pain while Sid was wrenching his arm. Great shit. Shawn comes in and rope work begins, going through both Owen, the Bulldog, back again during a commercial break. I love Owen and Bulldog's work together as a team. They have great timing together during their brief double teams. In this match, they were doing wishbones, and it just looked fantastic. Something about the timing there was just damn crisp. I also really loved Clarence Mason yelling at the referee, wagging his finger, wagging his head at him. Very animated and entertaining. I also really loved Shawn reversing an attempted knee lift from Owen into a roll-up and pin. That looked great. I also really loved the Bulldog practicing footwork in between kicking Shawn Michaels on the mat, doing a little shuck and jive dancing there. Earl Hebner maintained his record as worst referee ever in this match, allowing himself to be distracted diagonally across the entire ring with a combined 500 pounds of beef rumbling around behind his back. We broke to commercial and got a fucking amazing video package from Bret Hart, putting himself and Steve Austin over. It was maybe 30 seconds, but that was fan-fucking-tastic. I loved Vince saying to Lawler, "Let's not bury Sid. He's not accustomed to tag team action." Just the fact that he needed to say it. The Bulldog held Shawn, and Owen got up to the top turnbuckle for the missile dropkick. Shawn dodged it, so Owen hit Bulldog, and I loved Clarence Mason freaking out at the apron. I don't know what happened with Sid trying to chokeslam the Bulldog, but that looked like shit. And I feel like I'm repeating myself, though, when I say that the finish is where it all fell apart for me. Talk about telegraphing. Everyone was so perfectly in position and methodically acting their part, so Shawn could hit Sid with the sweet chin music instead of Bulldog. I knew what was going to happen as soon as we got the wide-angle view of the entire ring. The tag champs keep beating on the losers up until a great-looking enziguri from Owen Hart that looked like it damn near spun Shawn Michaels' head around 2 or 3 times. Perfect view of that. I have to admit, guys, that I was surprised at how good this tag team match was. I guess Sid was too much of a variable for me to predict it, but they managed to keep Sid out of the ring enough to not bring things down. The finish was too much for me, though. They could have just had a clean ending there with Sid, who is noted as being psycho. You know, he could have lost his temper or something, but this contrived pseudo-betrayal that has literally been blatantly going on for the past 4 weeks now was just a little too much for me. Joe, what did you think of our show opener, please?
Let me ask you guys a question before I comment. This is the go-home show for Survivor Series. Are you guys at all excited about Shawn Michaels versus Sid?
Nope.
For the World Championship?
Not really, no.
And it's mainly, I think, because of other stuff overshadowing, but I think it just to me it seems forced. You know, we're doing the friendship angle again. It seems like everything with Shawn ever since he won the belt at WrestleMania has just been forced.
Yeah.
There's really no reality to any of it. But there is to Stone Cold Steve Austin and Bret Hart. There is with Mankind and Undertaker. You mean throw Paul Bearer in the mix too, and it's even better. It's kind of a shame. I mean, they're both really over, Shawn and Sid. They're both baby faces that are very popular with the crowds, but yeah, I'm just not really excited. Now, they started this go-home show with these two guys, so it made me think, well, how is this episode going to end? Are we going to end with Stone Cold and Bret? Are we going to end with Mankind and Undertaker? I guess we'll see. I don't know. You would think that this would have been last and not first, but hey, whatever. I think the finish, Bartlett, you weren't a fan of the finish. The accidental sweet chin music to Sid was probably really the only way to book this finish, I guess, to keep that story going. But Sid, again, it's like his timing is off all the time. So yeah, it was very telegraphed, very easy to tell what was going to happen. So I don't know. It didn't look good on TV. Let's put it that way. I don't know. This match I thought it was okay. It's just, I'm supposed to be excited for Shawn versus Sid and I'm not.
Yeah, and I think I would agree that is the biggest takeaway. I thought what actually happened in the ring was fantastic. I thought it was a very entertaining match. It's just, if you're building up to Shawn versus Sid at Survivor Series, it doesn't really do anything for that for me. But if I'm just in the crowd watching it, I had a hell of a time because it was good. Everyone involved, especially when Owen and Shawn were in there. We've said before, it's a shame that they never really had a major feud with each other that went on very long, because when they're in the ring together, it is just a blast to watch. It's just fast paced, and I just wish we could have seen a lot more of it. And when the Bulldog was in there, it looked good too. And Sid is the major spot where things kind of slow down. When he was in there with Owen, things did look pretty good. Owen is such a great wrestler that he's able to put Sid over. But that choke slam towards the end of the match, Bartlett, you pointed that out. It was one of the uglier choke slams I've seen in a long time. And the ending, it isn't my favorite, but Joe, I kind of agree with you. I don't know what else you do here. It's predictable, but it's predictable because this is kind of the only thing you could do at the end. I don't love it, but, I thought it was an entertaining match, but in the end, it doesn't really do what it needed to do.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I mean, let's face it, Joe, you made a fantastic point about our championship match at SummerSlam. It's currently relegated to the opening match here, and not only the opening match, but a tag team match. It's like, how many? It was
lengthy.
Ways.
I mean, this was a long match.
Yeah, but we've also learned over the past couple years that tag team matches at the beginning of the show is where we go to shit on people, right? I mean, why are our championship contenders in this match as opposed to like what Joe said, later on in the episode? But hey, man, whatever. I completely agree. I'm not excited for the championship scene at at Survivor Series at all. Well, guys, we need to call into the Superstars line here. We need to find out who will be the shocking mystery partner at next week's Survivor Series. And at this point in things, I had no idea what that was in reference to because all we knew about was one Survivor Series match. We hadn't gotten to learning about the new lineups yet, at least up to this point. We got a recap of what just happened before moving to Kevin Kelly backstage. Kevin is going to stick around and get an interview with Shawn and Sid after the bedlam that was the post-match fallout. Now to Doc Hendricks. He's here to give us a Survivor Series rundown, and here is where we get new information. There's obviously the teams that we've already talked about, we found out about last week. The teams include the Kings team. That's Jerry Lawler, Goldust, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, and Crush, with Mr. Perfect managing, versus the Stalker Barry Windham, Mark Marrow, Rocky Maivia, and Mark Henry with Sable managing. And then here is where that previous mystery got solved. The next team lineup consists of Vader, Farouk, Fake Razor, and Fake Diesel. My God, what a team. With the exception of Farouk, but it looks like his helmet's probably going to show up and make an appearance. They're going to be taking on Savio Vega. Fucking Yokozuna out of nowhere.
Yeah, where'd that come from?
I'm pretty sure we've gotten the news, Joe, that he's had his last match 4 or 5 times now. What's going on here, man? The debut of Flash Funk. God damn, I'm looking forward to that. And an as yet unnamed mystery partner there with them. The final Survivor Series matchup consists of the fucking throwaway match. The Godwins teaming with Doug Furness and Phil LaFawn?
I don't know.
Whoever the fuck they are, they're getting a Survivor Series match.
Yeah.
Pay-per-view.
It may be our first Jobber of the Week during a pay-per-view.
Oh my God.
No. Oh no.
Well, they're going up against the tag champs, Owen and the Bulldog, along with the new Rockers, Marty and Jannetty and Leaf Cassidy.
Jesus.
Kevin Kelly is still backstage and will continue to keep us updated. I am on record as saying that Survivor Series is my least favorite gimmick match pay-per-view. I don't care for the formula of the whole 4-on-4 thing. The teams are never interesting. But here we have some interesting potential, at least. Farouk is returning. That's a good thing. Rocky Maivia will be debuting in Sanctioned Action. That's a good thing. Flash Funk will debut. That's a good thing. But then we've also got 2 guys that I've never really heard of rounding out what amounts to a throwaway match. Joe, what did you think of this new information we got about Survivor Series and then just everything else in this segment?
Well, I think we would all agree that after you read off all of these traditional Survivor Series matches, they look like the complete drizzling shits. Outside of Rocky Maivia and Flash Funk, I used to love Too Cold Scorpio when he was in WCW before this. He was awesome, but they give him this fucking weird Rick James gimmick, Flash Funk, and I don't know. We'll see how that works out. Like you mentioned, Ryan, we might have a Jobber of the Week in a pay-per-view. And in the words of Kevin Kelly, that would be complete pandemonium.
Kevin, oh my God, Kelly, when he started off the segment saying that it was complete pandemonium backstage, I thought he was going to pull it out here again. Oh my God.
It wasn't, by the way. There was no pandemonium at all.
No, completely quiet backstage. But that was a fun way to start off, and then we lead into the Doc's Cocaine Jam. The biggest thing I took away here was Yokozuna. I was absolutely shocked when I saw that he was involved in one of these teams. It's cool to see The Rock. We're finally going to get to see him. We come back to Doc, and he is definitely tweaked up tonight. He's dancing and gyrating us out of the segment.
So I don't know if it's one of those, like, Google was listening to me situations, but earlier today I was just hopping around on YouTube and I came across, I think it was JR calling a Headbangers versus Furnace and LaFawn match. Just out of nowhere on YouTube. They're creeping up on us, guys.
By the way, I have no clue who the mystery guy is. I don't remember.
No news on that.
No, yeah, Meltzer claims to not know who it is either. He seems to be sure that it's not Ahmed Johnson, but outside of that, I know, Bartlett, you look ahead for the show, but I am not going to.
I do know who it is. I'm not going to spoil that, but I will remind everybody here, just to get it out of the way, that Mark Henry does not end up appearing. Jake Roberts fills in for Mark Henry. And Joe, I'm pretty sure you covered that in your notes there last week.
Yeah.
But as of right now, that hasn't been announced to us yet. But Jake Roberts is not the mystery partner that's being referenced. That's a completely different situation. So I look forward to hearing what you guys think about it.
That's good to hear.
Good.
Let's keep it moving now because we have something else quite titillating to watch. That's our next match. Mankind with Paul Bearer and the Executioner defeats Freddie Joe Floyd by submission in 2 minutes and 49 seconds. In a strange turn of events, Mankind was out first. And I was immediately impressed with how these two were working together. This action looked pretty solid from both competitors at the start. What didn't look impressive, though, was the fucking Executioner. That guy just ought to come out to cartoony stripper music, too, because he's just a fucking joke at this point.
Looked like a Halloween costume that someone's mom made.
That axe looks like it's made out of tinfoil.
Yeah.
That's so bad.
Mankind ended up taking over pretty quickly, though, in this match, and Freddie did a pretty decent job selling for him, especially during the pile driver that was leveraged with the wedgie, crammed up there into poor Freddie Joe's Floyd's.
Almost tore off Freddie's tights there.
But that was the setup for the finish. As I said, this is a 2 minute and 49 second match. As Freddie Joe was laying there, Mankind applied the mandible claw and the match was over. We kept getting close-ups of the Executioner and I fucking hated it. But after the finish, the lights flashed and the bell tolled, and that shark cage with Paul Bearer effigy in it lowered down from the rafters, followed by the voice of The Undertaker broadcast across the arena. The Undertaker called Paul Bearer and Mankind poor, foolish souls, and promised the beginning of a new era of darkness. Got a little chub on that one. Popped my ass off looking forward to the new era of darkness. The Executioner continued to be useless and stood there doing nothing and contributing nothing to any of this.
The real question is, an executioner kills people, right?
Right.
What could an executioner do to someone you can't kill?
He can break a shovel over his head.
After the match.
That's about it.
He didn't
bury a man
win
alive.
The match for Mankind. It was after the match.
Yeah.
Useless.
Well, this was a great squash match, keeping that context in mind. And this is more or less what Mankind and the story needed going into Survivor Series. But I feel like, I really feel like it's distinctly hurt by this Executioner bullshit. His presence was just about as sharp as that truck stop cosplay battle axe he was carrying. Ryan, please, what did you think about this match?
I think that's giving the axe too much credit, to be honest with you, that description. But I agree. I thought this was a perfectly good jobber match that Mankind needed going into the next pay-per-view match with Undertaker. very beginning of this match is when we get the Barbara Streisand talk about her being on Oprah, and the King makes fun of her for a little bit about some movie that she's in.
Yeah, who knew that you would hear about the movie Yentl on Monday Night Raw?
Freddie Joe Floyd did a solid job here for Mankind. I thought it was hilarious when Mankind gave the pile driver and almost de-pantsed him, as you pointed out. That was pretty funny. And then he gets the easy win with the mandible claw. But this was all just a setup for the end, where we get some more theatrics from The Undertaker, the effigy of Paul Bearer coming down upside down. And one of the best parts here was once the cage made its way down, Mankind started squealing and ramming his shoulder into the steel cage.
Yeah, it was good.
This whole segment, I would have ate up as a teenager. The Undertaker, everything he was saying. So way to continue this story along off of just a basic squash jobber match,
Yeah, I agree. I don't have much to say about the match itself, but yeah, all the stuff after with The Undertaker. I'm glad they did this because I was kind of unsure if we were going to see anything between these two headed into Survivor Series. So I'm glad they did this on Raw, because the last time we saw the Paul Bearer dummy and The Undertaker was a clip from Superstars, right?
I believe so.
Yeah. So I'm glad we saw it on Raw. The one thing that I wanted to ask you guys, though, is did either of you think it's kind of silly that, or maybe a missed opportunity here, that The Undertaker is a man who was buried alive like 4 weeks ago, and he's going to have a match? I feel like they could have maybe done a little bit more with that.
Like dug him up.
So they would sometimes time they timed the casket matches with Yokozuna around time where Undertaker was injured and needed some time off.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
But here he got buried alive and he's coming back 4 weeks later. I mean, I know it's The Undertaker. He's a dead man, but I don't know. I feel like it's sort of a missed opportunity to sort of build more around that.
I guess the one thing that they showed us at the end of that match is he already came back. Like, the hand came out.
Right.
So, they were already showing us like, oh, this didn't do anything to him. Really.
Yeah.
Unlike the casket matches where we were to believe he was dead and put away or whatever,
The hand came out and then we got the New Rockers music right after.
Right.
We just needed to kill him twice.
Last thing I had noted here that the executioner is so poorly done here that it's no wonder I have zero memory of the executioner.
Well, he does nothing. They show him a bunch of times, but he doesn't do anything except stand there.
But I mean, even the Buried Alive match where he came out, like I had no memory of that either, and it's no wonder.
I remembered that some guy hit Undertaker with a shovel, but that's it.
Some guy is right.
A faceless nobody hit Undertaker with a shovel. Yeah.
Yeah, you make a really good point, though, Joe. If they just hadn't have done the hand out of the grave thing and left him buried, Mankind could have gone on to do like 5 or 6 months of just wreaking havoc, not necessarily chasing the title, but just being like a chaos agent and showing up and fucking things up for people. And, The Undertaker has to come back and right the wrong or something like that.
I think one thing that would have maybe extended that storyline is, as I've mentioned before, from just listening to JR, he talked about how The Undertaker was supposed to have a bit of an offshoot feud with the Executioner right now. But
that's right.
Too bad. He was so shitty that they couldn't do that, and they immediately went back to Mankind. So I think they were trying to build up to it a little bit more, or back to it a little bit more, but their hand was forced with the Executioner's terrible wrestling.
Yeah, and that actually makes me think of Yokozuna. I mean, there's not a direct comparison there necessarily, but with the casket matches in Yokozuna, they knew they could only get 10 minutes out of that match, and they knew that if they tried to do it frequently, it was going to just get progressively worse. But now here they have somebody in Mick Foley, Mankind, that they know can just go and keep going. And they, fuck it, why not get everything you can out of it? You know, why pump the brakes on something that's picking up speed? Whereas with Yokozuna, you had to pump the brakes because that was going to go downhill fast.
Because of the girth.
Yes, the girth that somehow got him to Survivor Series this year.
Yeah, you know, if you're going to have Yoko come back, it's fitting to have him in a 4-on-4 match, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, guys, this weekend is also Hall of Fame weekend there at Madison Square Garden in New York. They're going to be inducting some more people, and we got some new names here. Walter Killer Kowalski will be entered into the Hall of Fame. Also, the Valiant Brothers, they're going to be inducted. And after that nice little video package, we got to take a look at Rocky Maivia, the first ever third-generation superstar. Kevin Kelly is there interviewing Rocky, and Rocky is distinctly subdued and relaxed, very opposite the character that he would eventually become. Something that is not different at all was Rocky's ring work, though. His ring work looks almost exactly the same. They were showing training vignettes.
With is it Flip or Zip or...
The Doctor, Tom Pritchard, is what we should probably stick with here from here on out. But just it's the little things. Maybe I'm sure you guys and our listeners know what I'm talking about. But it's the little gestures. It's the little signals. It's the
leg
style.
snap before he moves.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
A lot of snap to it. That's a great way of putting it. But yeah, I mean, you could tell here that his work isn't really going to change. If anything, it's going to become a little more refined, but it's going to stay like this. Right after that, the room got brought down with a commercial for the Big Bang Boom Tour. That was in between check-ins with Kevin, oh my God, Kelly. I really like that, Ryan, by the way. And Psycho Sid backstage. They tried to do the honest mistake line again, and obviously Sid doesn't like it. Sid cuts a very Sid promo with shades of the Macho Man in some of his delivery. Did you guys hear that too? The way that he was hitting his lines was very macho.
Yeah.
But then they went to Stone Cold Steve Austin, another video package. He's there tough-talking Bob Holly, and then Bret Hart. He also cuts a pretty decent promo before then going back to the Toddster. It was a Karate Fighters tournament update. Doc Hendricks versus Sable. Doc did all right, but the promo that Sable cut was the shit.
Well,
fucking sucked.
What do you expect?
Sable ended up winning and will go on to meet the winner of Sonny versus Bob Backlund. God damn it. And then we were backstage again with Kevin Kelly, this time interviewing Shawn Michaels, with Shawn going off about the most recent victimization he's had to endure. Everyone calling him chump change. Sid was trying to force Shawn to call Sid the master and ruler. Bret Hart is being snarky to him. But once Shawn gets past that list of people that have hurt his feelings, he does lay down a couple of really nice lines about Sid. I especially liked where Shawn said that, and I quote, "With that chin you're sporting, I can hit it from anywhere in Madison Square Garden." Great fucking line. But in the end, this angry Shawn Michaels was much more entertaining than the usual Soma Shawn promo that we've been getting from him the past few months. Things end up moving out of this segment pretty quickly, so let's pause here. This was a pretty girthy mid-match segment. Ryan, what did you have on the Hall of Fame weekend, Shawn Michaels promo, and everything in between?
A Hall of Fame weekend, not much to add other than Killer Kowalski. He's on top of being a Hall of Fame wrestler. So many of the wrestlers that we talk about now were trained in his school. So I believe Triple H came from there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like his name came up a few times during your Jobber of the Week.
Oh, yeah.
segments.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a whole lot of jobbers that came out of there. I believe The Graduate was one as well. Remember that one?
Yeah.
I mean, he's deserving of the Hall of Fame just for that.
Yep.
Was that Timmy McNeely?
It might have been. It might have been McNeely.
Did Killer give us the pug by any chance?
I'd have to go back and check on that one. I don't
Team
know.
Pug over there wants to know.
Yeah, I don't know. But The vignette with the debut of The Rock, though, or Rocky Maivia, was pretty great. That was the main thing I pointed out, too, was his moves here just were distinctly The Rock. You could just see right from the beginning, bringing back some really great memories. So looking forward to seeing him, but I know we're going to go through some rough times with The Rock, at least as far as the fans go. The Sid promo, I thought this was one of his more coherent interviews that he's given.
Yeah.
You said a little bit of the Macho Man, and I could see that here, but most of the time Sid goes off the rails pretty quick, but I was able to follow him through most of this, so I'm going to give him props there. Except, at the end, he's angry about Shawn Michaels having the chair in his hand a couple weeks ago, as if he's incapable of watching the video of Shawn Michaels not being the one hitting him, but, that's wrestling, I guess. We have to look by that. Stone Cold's promo on Shawn Michaels, I thought that was, solid. There was nothing real new there, but a solid promo. Karate Fighters tournament. Sable wins. Okay. This is getting a little bit old, but again, I do have to give props to Karate Fighters. We've been saying that a couple weeks in a row, but man, this is a hell of a commercial for them.
Yeah.
And I did like that the King ended it with asking Petting Zoo if he could ever be interesting sometime. And then Shawn Michaels, he comes out and at the beginning, he's kind of moaning about no one giving him any respect like Rodney Dangerfield here. But you could start to see the smile starting to fade a little bit. But then he goes into a pretty good promo. He gets fired up, and I thought he ended it really strong. So started off a little bit typical Shawn, but I thought he brought it at the end.
Yeah, for me, the Rocky Maivia training video, the thing that stood out to me was that they are immediately telling us about all of his family ties, which I think is good. Otherwise, a lot of the older wrestling fans don't really give a shit who he is.
Mm-hmm.
So people maybe people our parents' age were watching Rocky Johnson, and they can say, oh, I was a fan of Rocky Johnson, so I like this guy. So I thought that was good. It's almost kind of like what they do now. They do it with Steiner, Rick Steiner's son.
Yeah.
Big Bang Boom, fuck off. I'm so tired of that shit. The Sid interview with Kevin Kelly, I agree. A little bit of Macho Man there. I even noted for Shawn's interview later with Kevin Kelly, it was almost a Hulk Hogan-like promo for Shawn Michaels, the way that he was kind of getting fired up there.
Yeah.
And the Karate Fighter stuff, I mean, Sable has zero fucking personality. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Men want to be with me.
Just zero personality. And one last funny note here is when they cut to Stone Cold to cut his promo, he's covered in baby oil. And he had I guess it was his vest, draped over his arm. He looked like a waiter. It was so strange.
I thought it was just really a great comparison to have Sable standing there up against Doc Hendricks in that Karate Fighters. You have somebody that's an over-the-top personality versus somebody with zero personality.
Yeah.
But she looks good in a dress sometimes. Well, from that segment, we go straight into our final match of the night. Stone Cold Steve Austin defeats Bob Holly by pinfall in 7 minutes and 29 seconds. Bob Holly got no entrance and no announcement. Truly a jobber treatment, in my opinion. But commentary added Jim Ross to the call, and the first thing Jim Ross did was bitch about it. Bret Hart is there in the arena, watching the match on closed-circuit TV, studying Stone Cold's work. And right off the bat in the match, Stone Cold and Bob Holly both show the value of the basics. They weren't doing anything too flashy or even anything too fast, but everything they were doing looked very real and very effective. I know this sounds like the opposite of what I say almost every week, but I liked the split screen with Bret Hart here. It was validating to see Bret Hart's facial reactions in response to the action, seeing Bret Hart put over the effectiveness of the work in the ring, almost as though he's feeling what's happening to Bob Holly and knowing that he's going to have to get that same treatment from Stone Cold in the Survivor Series match. We cut to commercial and got another black and white back alley vignette from Stone Cold telling Bret that Bret is going to beg for mercy. And that's followed by a Hall of Fame weekend commercial. I enjoyed that moment from commentary where JR says to Vince, "That's a Luthez press," which Vince responds with, "And that's a clothesline." And the King finishes with, "And that's Bret Hart." Whoop, 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 whoop. Right as we went back to split screen, the timing there was perfect. That did get pretty tedious, though, and they kept it going through another sequence. Bob Holly telegraphed the reversal in the corner there in the ring. That was the first time in this match that things looked a little shaky, but that led to a quick stunner and an even quicker 3 count. Austin left the ring and supposedly started heading for Bret Hart backstage. We got a couple of replays of Bob Holly perfectly selling the stunner. Austin makes a pretty smart choice, though, once he gets back in the back. He gets to Bret Hart's locker room door, or what's called Bret Hart's locker room door. We don't know for sure. Steve Austin pounds on it a minute and throws out there that he's not giving that beatdown away for free. We'll all have to pay to see it. Good shit, pal. And as Stone Cold turns his back on us, we fade to black. So many times we've talked about how the go-home show had a piss-poor finish to take us into the pay-per-view. So many times it was either just lame or fell flat or whatever other phrase you want to use for it. But this was a great finish for what has been a great build-up. In this case, it was fine that this was essentially a jobber squash match because we had the engagement of Bret Hart here watching it. We had Austin cutting promos before and after the match. And we ended with the suggestion that if we want to see the culmination of it all, we're going to have to pay for the privilege. This all adds up to the fact that I am now really looking forward to watching what is my least favorite pay-per-view of the year. For me, that's fucking miracle work. I never look forward to Survivor Series. Never have in my life until this point, and it's strictly because of the buildup of this feud and, to their credit, the way that they ended the go-home episode. Joe, what did you think of our final match and the way that Raw ended tonight?
Well, you guys are excited for Survivor Series, but you're also excited for Vader and Stone Cold Steve Austin next week on Raw.
Can't wait.
I thought the match was okay. I also liked Bret Hart watching the monitor, kind of commenting and reacting to what Stone Cold was doing. Thought that was a nice touch there. I am a little bit indifferent on the finish of the show. I thought it was a little goofy that Steve Austin sort of went into like a Ferris Bueller breaking the fourth wall type of thing.
Yeah.
And a little disappointed, I guess, that we didn't get any interaction between the two, but I guess it's okay. You're going to make me wait. You're going to make me pay. That's fine. But you're in a Monday Night War. Maybe you should have one of your biggest, if not your biggest superstar on Raw to confront Stone Cold Steve Austin. I mean, it doesn't take anything away from my excitement for that match coming up at Survivor Series, for sure. Also, they showed that black and white vignette again for Stone Cold Steve Austin. And Ryan, I really understand what you were saying a week or two ago about kind of ripping off the NWO vignettes. Very much so. I mean, I can definitely see that in those vignettes, but they are really fucking good. And he has some really good lines. Like, sunglasses and sparklers. What a load of crap. I love that line. And last week when he said, "I ain't no sexy boy."
They're not original, but that does not make them not great.
Yeah, we talked about the one earlier with Bret Hart, too. That was a really good one, too. Yep. So what a great build-up for this match. And even though I didn't love the finish of the show, I'm still very much looking forward to it.
We're going to be pretty much in agreement here. You know, Bret Hart watching backstage, for once, the split screen kind of worked. We still got to see some good ring work between Stone Cold and Bob Holly. You know, Bob Holly did a good job here for Stone Cold. Vince also, he did a good job of dodging, talking about Pillman having a gun at all. They talked about the incident a few times, but that was never brought up. Now, I'm going to land, I think, a little bit more with Bartlett on the ending here. I thought this was a really strong way to end it because, as we've said many times, we end these go-home shows without making us feel like we should buy the pay-per-view ever. And this one was, we have this great storyline between Stone Cold and one of the greatest wrestlers ever finally coming back after 7 months. Is that how long it's been? 7 months?
Yep.
And then we still don't get to see it. It ends with Stone Cold going into salesman mode. You need to buy the Survivor Series if you want to see me lay my hands on him. So I thought that was a great way to set up Survivor Series.
Yeah, I completely agree, and it's refreshing, honestly, to see a go-home show end with some enthusiasm for the pay-per-view, even though it's not the championship match, which is still a little disappointing. But hey, we have Stone Cold and Vader to look forward to, right? All right. Well, as I said, our episode is over, so let's take it on over now to highlights and lowlights. Joe, why don't you go first?
Did something a little different, I guess, for my highlight and lowlight this week. My highlight is the fact that they featured the 3 main matches that are occurring at Survivor Series on a go-home show. So Stone Cold, Bret Hart, Undertaker, Mankind, and Sid and Shawn. I mean, we really placed focus on those 3 big matches, and I thought that was good.
Yeah.
My low light is something that didn't occur on the show at all, and it's the fact that we pretend that the Pillman has a gun angle never happened, and Stone Cold Steve Austin appeared on this show, even though he was shot last week with Brian Pillman's gun.
Allegedly.
Yeah. I heard 2 explosions, Vince.
Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
Oh my God, he's back.
My highlight, I'm just going to go with what I thought was the best wrestling of the night, which was the first match of the night, the tag team match. I thought that was really entertaining and it was executed well from both teams. And lowlight, I don't have one. I mean, this was an extremely strong episode. All the matches made sense. As you said, Joe, they were building us up to Survivor Series, and then they finally finish it off with something that makes you want to buy it. So I can't really think of a lowlight here.
Yeah, I'm pretty close to that. My highlight is that it was hard to find a lowlight. This episode was just one of the strongest we've seen in terms of match quality, segments between matches, the build-up to the pay-per-view. Was it perfect? No, but if we're going to average everything out, pretty damn strong. I had to be a nitpicking dickbag to come up with a lowlight, and in this case, that's going to be Earl Hebner.
Third or fourth time now you've fallen on him.
You're the captain of Team Pug, but you hate Earl Hebner, a legend.
That's right. That's right. His impotent officiating during that tag match just chaps my ass.
Just to make you feel a little bit better, in my notes on that match, I also had it pointed out, but since you covered it, I didn't bring it up again. Just how he's the king of interruption, I guess.
Yeah. We should never, ever
and
gloss
impotence.
over the fact how terribly impotent he is in the ring.
One of Bret Hart's favorites.
Yeah.
He's like a fucking Buddy Landell arm there in the ring. Just, ooh.
What is it? Dark Side of the Ring, the Montreal Screwjob episode. I'm sure you guys both watched that, right?
Oh, yeah.
He just comes off as such a wiener. I don't know what other word. I don't know what other word to say. And he was just like, I didn't know what else to do, so I just did it. And Bret Hart's like, I don't blame him. He's a weak man.
He's a weak, impotent man.
Joseph, do you have any contemporary wrestling news from on and around November 11th, 1996 for us?
Oh, I do. There is someone else jumping ship, guys, from WWF to WCW. Can you guess? Unfortunately for you, Bartlett, it's not Earl Hebner, but can you guys guess who it is?
Who was it? I feel like I should know this answer.
Kurt Hennig.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Kurt Hennig met with Eric Bischoff this past week, and the two sides have apparently reached a verbal agreement on a deal where Hennig would return as an active wrestler.
Jeez.
And, you know, doesn't it make you wonder, like the whole Macho Man on commentary thing, and then Kurt Hennig not wrestling with WWF? Just, I don't know. It makes me wonder, like, what the hell was Vince thinking with those two guys?
I don't know. Yeah, I agree.
Well, I mean, the Macho Man thing, I have no idea, but with Hennig, he had the Lloyds of London thing, and I...
But he's going to WCW to wrestle.
Yeah,
now.
so obviously they found a way.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the only thing I can think of is that WCW had the money to pony up to pay him back for what he would have to pay back to Lloyds of London, whereas McMahon wasn't going to do that.
Yeah. Well, and this is going to shock you guys. There was a legal letter sent to WCW from Jerry McDevitt about this. The main thing is they're worried that Kurt Hennig and Eric Bischoff, they were going to pull a Lex Luger and have him appear on Nitro while he's still under contract with WWF. But he's not expected to appear on WCW until about February of 97, which must be when his contract runs out. And of course, the name Mr. Perfect is a WWF creation and trademark, so he will likely be performing as his real name, Kurt Hennig, once again. And we talked about the Brian Pillman stuff, and we pretend like it never happened, but there was an on-air apology from Vince McMahon concerning the Brian Pillman gun angle on the November 9th Livewire show. Vince McMahon took full blame and said the USA Network deserves no blame at all for airing the angle.
Okay.
Even the wrestlers themselves, Brian Pillman and Steve Austin, phoned in to Livewire to apologize for the angle. In addition, Brian Pillman apologized for his language that he used during the angle.
And Kevin Kelly apologized for shitting his pants.
Kevin Kelly, it's funny you mention him. He was on Livewire as well and explained it was all a publicity stunt by Steve Austin. And he noted the minute the cameras were off, Austin left Pillman's house without any incident. So there you go. Yeah. There's your explanation of what happened after they went off air.
That's a lot of really shitty backpedaling. Like, I mean, it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, Jim Ross stated on Superstars on Sunday that the footage from last Monday night will never appear on WWF television again. Dave Meltzer gave his opinion on the angle, and it's funny he mentioned, so while they were talking about this and apologizing on Livewire and Superstars, they were showing the whole thing. Again, they were replaying all of it.
This right here is what we're apologizing for.
Yeah, and on the replays, they blurred out the gun. So they at least did that. But they didn't blur out Brian Pillman re-racking the gun.
Oh my God.
Meltzer does also comment that he says, I fail to see how this angle in any way is any worse than the cartoon violence of burying someone alive or someone falling off a 5-story building, which is something WCW did. It was not reacted to or portrayed nearly as dramatically as last year's angle with Shawn Michaels, which ultimately was successful in that Michaels seemed to increase in popularity, and the Royal Rumble did a shockingly high buy rate for his return. The WWF teased and went off the air with the idea that Shawn Michaels had suffered a stroke, heart attack, or aneurysm and went off the air, teasing viewers with the idea that his life could be in the balance as he laid in the ring. Now that was tasteless. A break-in scene more mild than what normally appears on silk stockings on the same night on the same network is just a contrived storyline. So those are Dave's thoughts.
I completely agree with him on this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if Doink, was it Doink? If Doink wasn't allowed to get away with hitting somebody with a prosthetic arm.
Who was it with Duke's garbage can? Jerry Lawler?
That was the king again.
Yeah. Now, don't think for a second, guys, that this angle was not completely planned out and that USA Network was not aware of the entire plan. In fact, the USA Network knew everything about it, and they nixed 2 potential things that were going to happen. One was that Melanie Pillman would take some sort of bump, so USA Network nixed that idea from WWF. And 2 was that the WWF wanted Pillman to fire 2 shots that would ultimately be blanks. Instead, USA didn't like that, so instead they went to Kerwin's selfies to explain that he heard 2 explosions.
Good God. You know, it's probably better that they didn't do that, because as soon as you said that, the first thing that came to my mind was fucking Brandon Lee on the set of The Crow.
Yeah.
Like somebody probably would have ended up dead if they would have tried that.
Not to mention, Kerwin's selfies wouldn't have had anything to do.
Yeah. Out in the sticks there. Yeah.
He didn't do anything anyway.
Right.
Yeah, I don't plan on doing anything.
You guys remember I mentioned WWF was talking about doing an ECW-like adults-oriented television show. Well, that is officially going to happen. It's going to be called Shotgun Saturday Night.
Oh, nice.
And it's scheduled to air in January, so just 2 months from now. It's the target date. As mentioned earlier, Dave Meltzer has no word on who the mystery partner will be, but he seems certain it will not be Ahmed Johnson, so we will see who that is. And our buddy Regis Philbin had Shawn Michaels on his show with Regis and Kathy Lee to promote Survivor Series this week. And that is all.
I just imagine Shawn sitting there crying about being jumped by 43 armed Marines in Syracuse. Thank you, Joseph. Illuminating, as always.
How many Marines were there, Sean?
That's it, folks. We are done with this one. I want to thank you again for joining us. If you like what we're doing here and want to connect with us, you can email us at WRASSLINRAW. Just add @gmail.com to the end of that to submit questions or comments. Check us out on social media and on every podcast subscription platform. While you're there, don't forget to follow and subscribe to get every episode of Wrasslin Raw coming to you every week. Give us a 5-star review and let your friends know how much cooler they'd be if they became Toddsters like you and me.
Son of a
Next
bitch.
week.
Gross.
Next week on Wrasslin Raw, we're going to be taking a look at Survivor Series 1996 with matches featuring Jake Roberts, Yokozuna, and many more. So, for Joe and Ryan, I'm Jason, and this has been Wrasslin Raw.